Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, knit, and decorate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate with Stephanie podcast. My guest today is Byrd Wadhams, a curvy sewist who loves colorful, eclectic clothing and is unapologetically comfortable in her skin. She says style should not be defined by age, size, or gender. She started her sewing journey, which we're going to hear from her more about this, her sewing journey a few years ago. And it is her goal to show people that it's never too late to pick up a new skill or passion. So welcome, Byrd. I'm so happy to meet you. And I'm so glad that the moon and the stars sort of aligned for us to, meet and do this podcast recording.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Thanks again, Stephanie.
Yes, yes. So, I found you through SewOver50, and I follow that hashtag on Instagram, and I love it. And they have a podcast too. And then you're affiliated with them at times, like you do moderations and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm
Okay.
actually part of the SewOver50 team, totally behind the scenes,
Oh,
because they
nice.
really like it to be, they would love it to be presented as if it's one person. But there is a team of, I think it's up to maybe 10 or 12 of us now. And so in addition to me leading monthly or twice monthly live interviews with designers, fabric companies, sewists, makers, whatever the case may be, and it is a of individuals that we will have on the show as a guest. But in addition to those lives every month, I'm actually one of their editors. And so we are broken up into teams that once a month we are responsible. So when I say once a month, I have 1 week out of every month that we're dropping into the account, we're putting up posts, we're resharing. So we love when people tag the SewOver50 account and we reshare their posts and makes. And really, it's just to kind of continue to encourage and bring inspiration to the sewing space.
Well, that's interesting because it really helps with avoiding burnout for like one or two people to handle. It's a very good idea to have multiple people and that you're only once a month, you know, on there to do your posts and so forth for that part
And
because you
and
have
if
your
I could,
own thing going on too.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. We all have our own sewing world. Some do more or less on social media. But I just wanted to share, because you mentioned the one or two people in burnout. So when SewOver50 was created, which was uh, just a number of years ago, it's only been like a handful of years that they've been in existence. I want to say maybe 6 years, 6, 7 years. It was founded by two folks, Judith and Sandy. And one is based in the UK, the other is in Australia. And they did this thing for, I'm going to say 5 years, and it got to the point that it was complete burnout. And they were thinking about actually shutting down the account. And so they thought about it, and that's when they expanded it and asked for community members who were very active. And that's how we ended up having an editors team.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's super smart for them to do that because I certainly have felt the burnout and especially this year. But anyway, so that's good. Very good. Cause I love, following them and I'm glad that they stayed alive because it's not something that's, you know, there's, as far as I'm concerned, there cannot be too much over 50 sewing, crafting, knitting, quilting, anything like that. I think it's a good thing. So,
Yeah, it's the SewOver50 community. I discovered it. I've only been sewing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've
mhm.
only been sewing for about 4.5 years, and I discovered them probably um, maybe 4 years ago. And through that, I've met so many amazing makers, including my co-host that with the lives, Molly, who's in Albuquerque, and we've met a few times in person as well. But I've met so many incredible makers from all over the world. And honestly, I'm not really sure that I would have been able to make those connections without the SewOver50
Mm,
community. And we don't check anyone's IDs, by the way. So for folks to follow and share, we
yes.
are going to reshare, your post. We're going to celebrate with you. No one is saying, oh, they're
That's
only
good.
42. It isn't
Right, right.
important at all. It really isn't. We want to celebrate.
That's great. Yeah, of course. And I mean, all right, just a little side tangent. I started watching on YouTube Angie on Hot and Flashy when I was about 42, and it was meant for like, 50 and over. I mean, she was at that age and stuff, but I'm telling you, it was great. I mean, I started to really like learn and take care of my skin a bit better towards, the aging and changes and all that stuff. But anyway, it's you don't have to be exactly what what it says. You just have to be
Yep,
interested.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, the community is wide.
Yes. All right. Well, let's talk about you. What is you said 4.5 years? So tell as much or as little as you want about your sewing story.
Awesome. I would be happy to share. I have been sewing for 4.5 years. Can I still say 4.5, 4 3/4? It will be 5 years in October. So, right around the time that COVID hit, I mean, I think for a lot of people, they got into different kinds of hobbies and crafts and things that you can do at home and remain safe. I went to Amazon and I ordered a very, very inexpensive beginner sewing machine. And I thought, oh, I'll have something to kind of play around with. Maybe I'll mend things, I'll hem things like that, really to kind of have things to do. And the other thing that happened in that year, Stephanie, was I retired. I had been a government employee for over 3 decades. And I retired in March, and then COVID hit, and then we were in lockdown. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm used to 40, 50-hour work week. So this was a huge shift for me. I'm not one to sit in front of Netflix. I want to be out doing. And so I got into sewing, got my sewing machine. It doesn't come with a manual. It doesn't even tell you how to thread it. So I called someone, a family member who is a really great, amazing creative, and she kind of walked me through it a little bit. I figured it out, got there, learned to wind a bobbin, and then I just started sewing straight lines. But that didn't last long because I really enjoyed how it felt under my fingers. I enjoyed, after it was all done, the sense of accomplishment. Again, leaving government and feeling good after I finished the project was something that was really special to me. And now moving into sewing, where I too can kind of wrap myself around a project. So I started drafting my own pajamas. I didn't even know what drafting meant. It was, I just laid my pajamas out on top of fabric, traced around them, and I did that for everyone. My son got a pair, my daughter got a pair, my husband, myself. Other family members would get pajamas. Some of them were spot on, and my daughter actually still wears her pajamas, so that says a lot. And some of them were like drop crotch. And so I'll just say that was a designing feature, but really it was because I had no idea what I was doing. I went to Joann's and I didn't purchase a pattern. I looked at the patterns. $20. I said, I am just learning. I can't spend $20 on a pattern. So I really started with just tracing things, making tote bags and little easy things that I could do at home. So that's really where it started. And I have not looked back at all.
That is so cool, and I think that that is a actual common thread amongst a lot of us in our sewing journeys is that what keeps us coming back is the thrill and the sense of like accomplishment. Because if you look at you've taken raw goods and you've made something from them. Like I always
Hmm.
like I made something from nothing.
Yep. It's just incredible. It
Yeah.
feels amazing.
Yeah, it really does. And then when you can wear it and stuff, that's great. And then if your kids are proudly wearing your makes, even better, it just that must make you feel so great.
It feels just incredible. It really, truly does. And my son is a touring musician. And so he's toured with a number of people all over the world. He has worn overalls I've made for him. jackets that I've created for him, and he'll take pictures and share them on his Instagram, tagging me, and it makes me feel so good. And I'm gonna tell you, when I make something for them, and every now and then I may make something for them that they don't love and may not necessarily wear very often. And so I have a little mental list. I'm like, okay, because there are a lot of projects that I want to work on for myself. And so if I make something for one of the kids, and it's not something that they love, they will be put on kind of like my no making list for a little while,
Yeah.
because I want to make things that people love and are going to wear
Yes.
and
Yes.
use. And then they'll say, "Mom, can you make
Yeah.
this?" And after a little while, I might do it, but time is limited.
So limited. And I quilt as well. And quilters also have this thing where if, they're going to put all the time and effort to make a quilt for someone, are they quilt worthy? Because it is just soul crushing when you put your love and effort and time to make this handmade quilt for someone and they just like, you know, oh, thanks.
100%.
Toss it in the trunk. I don't know. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of stories out there, and I even have, a couple of my own. So then you mentally are like off the quilt list.
And to add to that, when I am making something for anyone, whether it's a gift, the entire time that I'm making it, from the moment that I begin cutting it out and starting to stitch it, they're in my head. So it is it is very personal.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited. I get giddy, like, oh, I'm so excited. I hope they like this. And I really think about whatever I create for an individual, with them, solely with them in mind.
Yeah. And they're lucky. They're anyone who has, clothing or anything handmade for them by someone is, feel like super lucky because I know very few people in my, family and, that even does that. I mean, I'm pretty much the only person in my family that sews. So, but I have been teaching my nieces. Uh, so we'll hope that they stick with it. Um,
Oh, I love hearing that,
yeah.
because we have got to pass on this
Right?
amazing
Yes.
skill to others. So I love that.
Yeah. And the one, they're sisters, my sister's daughters, and the one just turned, well, she's going to be 17 next month, but they're a little bit more taken away from the I've taught her since she was 5 and she's made a quilt, some clothes, I mean, all of it and still likes it. And I know she'll return to it. And then her younger sister is like me, who just eats it up. I mean, she just cannot, my sister was like, she could sit there for hours and do like this hand sewing stuff. So I'm like, oh, I love it. It's so great.
Love that. Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So you're right. We do. We really need to pass this on to the next generation. Because how are they going to know if they like it or not if they are not exposed to it at all? So,
Yeah, I often
yeah.
hear that sewing is kind of a dying breed, and I don't think so. In addition to being a community member, so over 50 on Instagram, I'm also part of other communities on Instagram as well. And there are so many young makers out there, 20s, 30s, that have picked this up and are running with it. They are putting fashion, fast fashion to shame, and they're making some really incredible things. So I think it is a beautiful thing to hear when you're sharing it with other people. And I'm hoping, I got my daughter in here once or twice, and I'm hoping to be able to share it with others as well. And I've
Oh,
actually
good.
taught a class, a volunteer class at a local um, sewing group, Kavnar House here in Reisterstown. But I'm really hoping to pass it on to some of my family members.
Good. Yeah, yeah. That would be great. And I think too, the young generation now, fast fashion has actually sort of um accounted for them finding sewing in their life to get away from that. We didn't have that, or at least in my generation, growing up in the 80s, did not have that. I mean, like shopping malls were the thing and sewing
Yeah.
was not cool, but
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily fast fashion yet. At least, not where I grew up. I mean, like we got our like, you know, winter coats for like maybe the season and then the two more seasons after that, so until it like falls apart, that sort of thing, and you fix stuff. And now when it's just disposable, it's gotten like completely out of hand. So I'm very proud of the younger people who have found sewing and are working on their own capsule wardrobes and stuff like that. So it's very encouraging. um, and I also noticed that you do sew some other things like bags and dog clothes. And I have dogs too, so I love when people have their pets and they sew for them as well. Oh, and I also saw too you made a tie for your husband. I think you guys traveled
Yeah.
on a trip somewhere and it was so cool. I love it. And I love that he wore it proudly, and my husband likes that too. My husband likes when I make him things. So, um just uh, talk about like cuz you just started sewing 4.75 years ago. And I from what I hear from you is just that you go into things just with a completely open mind and not like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do this, or how, like you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try it. And look what you have done.
Yeah. It's been quite the journey. And I have sewn lots of different kinds of things, from starting with tote bags and self-drafted pajamas, to moving on to sewing with patterns. And then learning with those patterns, because you can sew a pattern and then try it on and it doesn't fit you. So then I've been spending time over these last few years on learning to fit garments and how to do that in a way that makes sense throughout the construction process. So that's been a big part. But I sew pretty much everything. As you mentioned, I love doing doggy clothes to match whatever I'm wearing. So if I have a little extra fabric left over, I'll make clothing for our dogs. They're all rescue dogs, which is another thing that I'm really a big proponent of. I do like to make bags. I don't know if you can see the bag
Oh
on the
yeah, I can.
door. That's
Very
one of the
nice.
bags that I made, and that is a really great travel bag. Anything that I need is it's perfect, and it slides under the seat, right under me when I'm traveling. The ties, and interestingly, the tie for my husband, that wasn't even my idea. I had finished the dress for an event we were attending. It's actually happened a couple times now. And he'll say, "Can you make me a tie to match your dress?" And so I said, "Okay, I've never made a tie, but no worries. Get me a tie that you don't want anymore." I deconstructed the tie. So similar to what I did with the pajamas, I deconstructed the tie and created basically my tie using that tie, his tie that he no longer wanted. And I would make any adjustments if he didn't love it, because it was a store bought tie. So if he wanted any special adjustments or hacks made to it, I could do that. And so it ended up being a tie that he really loved. So I make ties, I make bags, I make fur coats. I am not afraid of sewing with. At first I'm like, let's just do this thing. And that's one thing I think about me is I am a little bit fearless when it comes to sewing. I'm not one of those folks that I'm terrified about cutting into my good fabric. Like I'm not one of those folks that I'm not going to use the china in the house. I'm going to use it
Oh
because
yeah.
what else is going to happen with it? So I will use it and I will cut it. And has it always been perfect? No, but I've always been able to, except with one dress, I was able to completely get to a place with whatever I was creating that I was really happy with. So I've made fur coats, I've made leather garments, pants. I love making dresses. The reason why I love making dresses is I have a full garment. So if I make a pair of pants, then I
Right.
feel pressured. Okay, Bird, you need to go make, or the same thing with the skirt. You have to go make something to go with this, even though I may have something else.
Mm.
So I
Hmm.
love making dresses because I know right away I throw on some sneakers or shoes, and I have a completely brand new garment. One of the most challenging things I would say that I um, worked on was learning how to make welt pockets. And it was a couple years ago, it was a welt pocket in a wool coat. And I just could not figure it out. And then after working with it for a little bit, it isn't something that I run away from. I'm totally fine with it and I love them. That was one thing that was a big, big challenge for me. Zippers used to be a big deal for me. When I first started sewing, I would, if a zipper were needed, or if buttons were needed, I would use Velcro and do Velcro, and having the right sewing machine I think makes a big difference as well. And so I feel a lot more comfortable sewing invisible zippers, regular zippers. It doesn't take me a long time to get through them. Buttons I do really well on my Foff sewing machine. So it's been a journey, but I do a little bit of everything. I've even made swimwear, but I need to revisit that. I made just the bottoms. I didn't do the top because I'm full busted, and I was like, I would really want to be able to spend the time to make sure that I felt completely comfortable in it. But I haven't made any underwear. That's the one area I haven't stopped long enough to say, oh, you haven't made any panties or bra, but someday. But yeah, I've done a number of things.
Yeah, I mean, even so, the Velcro closure, you still got the garment done. You still forged ahead and didn't let it stop you. And then you eventually conquered it. And I totally agree with the upgrade of the sewing machine because that can a sewing machine that's limited in its features and accessories can really be a frustrating factor with sewing and can really kind of deter some people from it. They think it's them and it's really not, because I mean they've just got these like, I'm sure yours Faf has the one step buttonhole. I mean, it's just like you there's a couple of different kinds where you just put the button there and it just automatically sizes the buttonhole and stitches it. So yeah, I agree. I think that if you've, like you did, you started off with, you're not quite sure, you're just starting, you're not going to invest all this stuff, money into all of this. Once you got the bug and you're just, like, all right, I'm doing this, you upgraded and then voila, invisible zippers,
I
buttons.
highly recommend for folks that are just starting out, don't spend a ton
Yeah.
of money.
No.
Get something that is in the $100 to $200 range. Also, you don't even have to get anything new. You can go on to one of these secondhand sites like Goodwill online. You can buy really good sewing machines. You can visit a dealer and find used sewing machines. You can even do Facebook Marketplace and find a used sewing machine.
Yeah, and if
But
you can find one of
after,
those
Mhm.
Kenmores, gold. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean
It's
to
called
interrupt.
a Kenmore.
Kenmore, yeah.
Oh,
They, the older one, they don't make them anymore. They haven't made them for, I don't know, at least 10 plus years or more, 15 maybe years. But they're like good, solid, machines, mechanical, not high maintenance. And those are, you can find those around at, resellers like, I'm sure Goodwill and all that other stuff. But that's if because it's good to have a guide of like, what to look for because it could be overwhelming when you see all these machines available. But anything that's more like metal and solid and older will work.
and I love our community because there are people in the community that you can reach out to and ask questions
Yeah, yeah.
about a particular brand and what they actually recommend. So when I was ready to move from just, I have a fall quilt ambition, which I love. So it not only does the buttonholes and zippers with ease, but it also sews on my buttons. So the days of me threading a needle and doing 10, 11 buttons, it works with such great ease. But then when I was ready to transition over to an overlocker, being able to reach out to people, a serger, and say, what do you recommend? Because it's such a wide range of
Mm.
the different types that you could get. So I do love our sewing community because they will absolutely come through and offer guidance. One of the things that I did want to share, Stephanie, is in the 4.5 years, 4 3/4 that I've been doing this, although I've sewed a lot, or yes, I have sewn a lot of different types of things, the message that I really want to get across is if this is something that you want to do, there is an incredible, supportive community out there to walk you through. YouTube is amazing. If you're interested, do it. And don't be afraid, like I said, to cut into the good fabric. It's just fabric for crying out loud. Cut into the good fabric or use old bed sheets and things like that until you feel comfortable. But I just encourage you just to give it a try.
I agree, definitely. And even, I don't know if you are, you like to make muslins or not, but, when I do have to make a muslin, if I'm not just making just the bodice part, that I'll just make out of like muslin fabric. But if it's the whole thing, I'll just make it out of something I could wear so that
Yeah.
it's actually it's wearable and I didn't put all that time and effort into sewing something that can't be used.
So talking about muslins, this may not be popular. I don't do a lot of muslins. I actually bought some fabric when Joann's closed, got quite a bit of it, so I can actually do more of that. But I will literally cut a pattern. I will take the pattern piece, like if it's the front piece, and I can just put it across my body and get a good sense of the fit. I already know that I'm going to have to shorten the shoulders. I'm going to have to shorten the waist because I'm short waisted in most situations. Some indie patterns right out of the box, I'm good to go, but a lot of the commercial patterns, I know I'm going to have to make those adjustments. So I can sew a little bit and then try it on. So I know that's not a popular opinion, but
It
I
might
just kind of
be.
go for it.
Yeah, because I never knew about muslins until like the last, I don't know, like I did know about them, but I just never paid attention. Didn't think I needed to, until I learned, like, you're talking about learning how to fit stuff better. And for me, it's more like the full bust adjustments that I would need to do more so. Otherwise, it's just the simple lengthening or shortening, which you could do without doing the muslin. So I'm the same. I mean, if I can just cut it and know I can sew it. And then once you've sewn something, do you make more of it? Like, or are you just like one and done and on to the next pattern?
I am definitely not one and done, but it isn't across the board. So I pause a little bit because there are some things that I make while I'm in the process of making it and fitting it. I'm like, oh, I probably won't do this one again. But there are some patterns that I've made a few times, and they are definitely my go-to. And so I would say I have about a handful of patterns that I've made um, a couple times that are like my tried and my TNTs, my tried and trues. But I'm willing to try a new pattern. And I would say I'm using usually a different pattern, maybe 8 out of 10 times before I go back to maybe one of my TNTs.
Right. And do you have a favorite type of clothing that you like? You said dresses, maybe. Maybe that might be like one of your favorite types to make.
I think dresses for sure is one of my favorite. Now, a dress can be really simple if it's like just an A line and if the bodice and the skirt is, it's all one piece. But if it's a dress that has buttons, there's a defined waist, it's a fitted bust, those can take a lot, but I do love a dress. And what I will do is I will um piecemeal it and I will do um uh just, light stitches, maybe even pin it and try it on as I go along, starting from the top going down. But I would say the dress is probably my go-to. But I've gotten into making more pants because when I'm just running out to the store or just kind of hanging out, I will make just some comfortable kind of slip-on pants that some are fitted, some are not. But I would say the dress, I probably have more dresses than anything in my closet.
Interesting. So that's a good tip. And I think dresses too. Um, especially like the A lines and stuff. There's less details than, let's say, pants, for instance. So I think that's a good go-to type of clothing to put in your like beginner intermediate repertoire, I guess.
But eat, but even with the dress that may be all one piece, so you're cutting it on the fold and maybe there's only two pieces, the front and the back, you still, I still take the time to make sure that the fitting is right. If I need to shorten this area, before I sew the side seams, making sure that it fits nicely around the bust. I'm looking over toward my sewing machine because I'm working on a fiber mood pattern, and it is a dress where it's actually two front and two back pieces, but you just sew those pieces together. But before doing all of that, I took the time to make sure that the neckline laid flat. I definitely had to do some work there to shorten it. I had to bring in the center seam and the back seams until I felt comfortable. And so that's what I really encourage folks to do, is to take your time and try them on lots of times as you're making it, until you feel comfortable with it. Because in the beginning, when I first started working with patterns, I would make almost the entire garment and then try it on and go,
Yep,
why is this not
me
fitting?
too. And then I start crying.
And then I'm
But I
trying to figure
saw
out how I
you.
can tie.
Yeah, I saw you also, when you do, like, sort of the fitting parts, you baste stitch, which
I
is
based.
very
Yep.
easy to take out.
Yep.
So, I wanted to just, like, mention that because that's something that, maybe, not everyone knows, but if you just use that big, long, if you don't have a base stitch on your machine, most machines go up to 5 millimeters wide. Use the widest one. And I saw you doing that, and I'm like, that is a great idea. And I don't always remember to do that. So I took that away.
Absolutely. And even
Yeah.
in my sew alongs on YouTube, I will do a basting stitch. I'll tell folks, offline, I took the time to try this on. I'll give them the tips on my thoughts. And if it's a live sew along, obviously, um, it's whatever happens is whatever happens. But even then, I'll show the basting stitch when it's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, let me just say, I watched your live and you made the shirt you're wearing right now. Sew along. And I am just kudos to you. I'm so amazed that you can do that while talking to your, viewers, and then you're focusing. And I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And, something that I, aspire to be able to do, but I think it's part of that fearless part of you. And um uh, I also liked too that you show like everything you do is not perfect, and you're
Hmm.
able to correct right there and show everyone what happened and what you're doing, and then correct it. And you're like, okay, first you're like, no, I don't like that, so you take it out. And I thought, you know what, the I haven't seen a lot of people do that. It's a lot of times edited, and maybe in the lives you could still have, like, step ins or whatever. So I like that you're sewing it right then and there. And um you don't get all, like, you know, crazy if something doesn't work. Like, you're just like, all right, it's all right.
I'm laughing because when it's happening and something goes kind of left in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh. That's what's happening in my head. But I'm like, but I'm live. So let me
Yes.
just, okay, I'm just like talking to myself, just speaking to that little voice in the back of my head. Let me just do this thing.
Yeah.
But my thing is trying to be real,
Yeah.
because when you are sewing, and I don't have my seam rippers over by my sewing machine, you're going to use that a lot. I don't think I get through an entire, now and then if I'm sewing something super easy, but I use it a lot, and it's just part of the process. And I want people to know that it's okay. You just keep moving. It's almost something that you just should expect. So some of my sew alongs are taped sew alongs. So of course you're not going to see me taking something
Yeah.
out, but I'll
Yeah.
give instructions, some kind of tips so that people won't make the same mistake that that I made. But I just like to keep it real, and I think that for me, it encourages me, like, it's okay, you can do this. She did it, you can do this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was just like, look at her go and, you know, not imploding or anything. And I'm like, she's live. And then I'm wondering, what are people saying? Like while you're, because when you go back to the screen and, I'm like, is everybody trying to tell you what to do or, or they're just like, oh, that's cool. Thanks for showing that.
Yeah, and remember I mentioned that I had the one item that I did that I never went back to fix. I did sew it live. It was an all white dress. It's still hanging in my closet. I showed how I needed to go unpick it and like clean it up. Basically taking it in because it was way too wide here. Um, and it was a bias dress, so you have that additional stretch in the dress that you have to take into
Yeah.
account. I really should go back and unpick it and finish it up and post it. I've actually had people comment on that video. Did you ever fix it? I just that's the only thing that I have in the closet. I didn't throw it away. I just was like, I don't feel like doing the unpicking, and I moved on to something else. But I need to go back.
Yeah, and it's okay if you don't want to go back because,
Yeah.
you don't need that negative energy.
There's too many projects, excellent projects to involve myself in. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's fun, and it sounds like you have a great group of community with you too, that are part of your like that watch you with your so lives. Uh,
And I'm
and
grateful for all of them. I am so
yeah.
grateful. So grateful.
Oh. Um. So, uh, we'll talk a little bit about fabric patterns and notions, and then I just have a couple of questions about that. And then while we're on the topic of that, we can just do a little zigzag to what everybody's been talking about recently, which is the whole Joanne simplicity saga that's, changing. It's so fluid every day. But first, so do you have favorite types of fabrics for quick and easy to sew projects? Because, some fabrics are more fussy than others. What do you think?
For a quick and easy project, so this is a knit, and the stretch is really great, but the recovery is amazing. So it's not like one of those knits you wear it a few times and it starts to look kind of wonky. This is really great quality, and it's such an easy make. Because you just have the front and the back cut on the fold. Now this one is actually double. I won't pull it up, but it's the front and the back are, so I could have done this, and next time that I make this, I will, and use a different fabric, same stretch of type of fabric, and a different pattern on the inside. And easily, this could have been a completely reversible shirt. So that's something that I love is working with patterns and fabrics that are versatile. So something like this, there's a lot of give. So, if you get it a little bit too tight, there's some forgiveness there. If it's too loose, you just easily kind of make the seams larger, but super easy to work with and a very satisfying sew that you can be done with this, from cutting it out to actually finishing up and wearing it in, I'm going to say, an hour or two. I mean, I think that's pretty fast. The other types of projects that I think are really easy, and straightforward is if you are working with a woven and you're making, like, say, wide leg pants. First off, they're going to be a statement because they're wide leg pants. And if you work with a garment that really speaks to you, I mean, you're already going to show up with, feeling like really amazing in it. And I think that that just kind of, it shows, it really shows when you're happy with what you're wearing.
Mhm.
But it could just be an elasticized waist. So you really just have the front, you have the back pieces, you have the inseam, the crotch seams, throw in elastic, a drawstring if that's what you want, and you are good to go. Those kind of projects can be so satisfying and really easy to work with. I did not mention a woven top because once you get into woven tops, you need to be able to feel comfortable with putting in the facings and things like that. But they can be really easy as well.
Yeah, but that's good for just like quick and easy, not a lot of fuss or details, but just but still looks great and sewn for your own body and it fits well. Those are great tips for the wide leg pants. Could be drawstring or elastic and the knit tops that have like maybe two or three pieces total. So that's the other thing too. You could always tell if a sewing project is going to be like quick or long is the number of pattern pieces in the pattern.
I just finished a pair of gorgeous red overalls. I haven't gotten pictures of it yet. And I had to make a lot of modifications to it to fit me, for the bib to fit me the way that I wanted it to fit me. There were 30 some pattern pieces. 30 some pattern pieces. It took a lot of time to work through it, but I am really happy with the fit. And because it's the bib and the pants and it's a waistband, no elastic, so it really does have to fit well. When I got to about and I looked at my table and there were only like two or three of the pieces left, I was like, oh, I'm close. But I just kind of, um, I spaced it out over a couple days. There's no way I could get that done in a day.
Gosh, I probably wouldn't even get it done in a couple days. I'm slow.
Yeah. I
It might take me a
am
couple of weeks.
too.
But yeah, it can be very like yikes. But it's just a good thing to think because I am definitely like, always thinking that stuff's going to take less amount of time than it really does. And if you're making something for a deadline that you have to wear it to, just remember the number of pattern pieces and how long that's going to take. And not that it's going to be hard, it's just time consuming. It's just more steps because you're making more details. Like overalls, I mean, you've got all those, with the straps and the pockets and,
Pockets, top
base.
stitching.
Mm.
So even though that particular pattern had 30 some pattern pieces, I knew before I put the pattern away that I would make it again. But I went back and I made the adjustments to the paper pattern so that the next time I do it, I'm able to do it with a lot more ease. I use kind of a lightweight denim-ish, very bright red, but I know that I want to use an Ankara cotton. And I have some fabric coming. I am not going to do all of the pockets. So the Ankara is already bright and vibrant. So I'm going to skip a lot of the pockets because I don't really want to break up the pattern. And I think I'm not, still not going to say a quick sew, but it's going to be, I think, an easier sew. And so I know a lot of pattern pieces, but I know I'm going to be going back in that direction in the next month.
So where do you typically get your Ankara cotton fabric?
So there are a couple different places. There locally here in Maryland, there's a fabric store called G Street, and you can get Ankara fabric there. Now, when Joann's was open, you could get some there. I never bought any Ankara from Joann's. So G Street, I've gotten it. I also, Etsy is a good place. Amazon, if you shop on Amazon, you can even get some Ankara fabric. I was incredibly fortunate and blessed to travel to Kenya 2 years ago. And while there, I probably purchased 20 yards of different types of Ankara fabric. And it was so special to me because I was purchasing it in the Maasai markets. So with the local vendors and crafters and making something from that fabric just meant a lot to me. But you can get it from many places now around the country here in the U.S. I will say, when you get your fabric, do not wash your fabric before taking off the sticker. You're going to have very large stickers on Ankara fabric, and those stickers are there to really speak to the authenticity of the fabric, the Dutch wax fabric. Um, and you want to actually put it on your ironing board. I use either a thin cotton or you can use a paper towel and use my steam, really hot steam. So I place the paper towel on top of the sticker, and then I use the steam of the iron, and then you're able to peel it off. I made the mistake the first time I used Ankara, and I washed it you before taking it off, and I destroyed parts. I lost quite a bit of my fabric. So once you do
Oh,
that, then give it a nice hot wash because it's 100% cotton, and so it will shrink a little bit. But it's such a beautiful fabric to work with. It's 100% cotton, which makes it not fumbly. When you put it together, it's going to stay together. It's so easy to work with.
oh, that's nice. Okay. I want to check that out because I don't think I've ever sewn with that yet. Good. Um,
Definitely worth it. You'll love it.
Great. All right. So yeah, let's let's talk about Joanne just a little bit. I know it's been everywhere since like the beginning of this year when we were all shocked with because they filed for bankruptcy before and we're like, oh yeah, yeah, they'll get over it. This time they did not. So they went out of business and all the stores are now closed officially. But recently, all these other bombshells have started to drop where first the Joanne intellectual properties and brands like what do you call it?
Their logo, all of those
Yeah, their
things,
branded items
their
were
fabric, the
sold
Joanne. Mm-hmm. Yep.
right to Michael's. Which one of the big things from there, a lot of people were who are knitters and crocheters were concerned about that big twist um, yarn. So now Michaels will have that, and then just this past week, like last week maybe was it or earlier this week, um, the Big Four patterns under the umbrella of Simplicity was sold to a liquidator though. So that's kind of like we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just like not really, you know, set in stone what direction that's going to go to.
Yeah, we have been going through quite a bit of a shakeup. Losing Joanne's huge, and Um, I'm still grieving that in some ways. And when I
Yeah,
say grieving it,
me
I'm grieving
too.
it because if I need a particular type of thread, which is what I usually would get from them, I didn't necessarily get a lot of fabric. Sometimes I would, but because I get my fabric from a lot of online resources. But I miss them for being able to run out to get interfacing or thread.
Yeah,
Uh, Zippers, things like that.
yeah,
So I do miss that, but I do have a source for that, which I'm really happy about. But losing Joann's was huge. I mean, the first bankruptcy, as you mentioned, the second bankruptcy, and then on the heels of that, to sell them to be sold to a liquidator. And I felt really, really badly for their staff who were tossed around in this because as stores closed, they were shifted or they opted to take a job at another store, so maybe traveling a little bit further. And then to learn that all of the stores are going to be closing, and that whole closing sale was quite a mess. It was so
yeah.
crazy the way that they managed that. It just was horrible.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree because I went there a few times, and you know, people in line, I mean, it was one of the few times, I don't know, because I'm in the Chicago area, so people don't generally talk to each other when they're out. You're in Maryland, and I lived in Maryland for a year, um, and they're much more talkative, I think, there than they are here. You're much more willing to talk to a stranger there in Maryland. Like I was shocked when I was like, "You're saying hello to me," and here
And
it
I'll
just
definitely say hello in the Joanne store. I mean, it's like
right, right,
you're
yeah.
a maker, yeah.
But this time, everybody was talking to everyone, which was really kind of fun. And some of the people that have been going to Joanne for like 50 years were really torn up. And then they thought that it was Joanne's that was doing this horrible closing sales and stuff. And I said, they're not Joanne anymore. They're this other company that doesn't care who is buying what. And yeah, they didn't make the markdowns very nice at all. And things were just not done well. And so, but yeah, the customers really just felt very just like, you know, completely, I don't know the right word for it. Shaded is not the right word, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. They felt
yeah,
slighted with all of
slighted.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but when they learn that it's really, it's not them anymore, it helps to take off that, sort of grudge and that bad taste in your mouth from a store that you've come to love. I mean, so many people, including me, were pretty upset about it. And I know there's like a whole bunch of controversy of like, oh, make room for ours, the independent fabric shop. I mean, they never liked the big box stores, but I always feel like there's room for that and you need it because like you said, you've got to run out to get thread. You have to get like the basics. I would buy a lot of my stabilizers from Joanne. I mean, that's something that you like just need in the moment and you could just run out to get it. It's
Yeah.
there for you.
And speaking of Joanne's, this is water under the bridge, but after the first bankruptcy, Stephanie, I'd really hoped that they would have listened to their customer base, reduced their footprint then. So reduce, drop. Maybe you don't have 800 stores. Maybe you only have 300 or 400 stores. Maybe you have a smaller footprint, so your leasing costs go down. Maybe you stop putting money into the home decor stuff, right? And my gosh, the fleece. There were aisles and aisles of fleece. Talk to your customer base. If you're in Wisconsin, maybe you need fleece more often during a year. If you're
Mhm.
in, the South, South,
Mhm.
or even here in Maryland, I had never, ever used fleece for
Mhm.
anything as a garment maker. So I'd really hoped that they would have listened and made some different um, business decision. But it's water under the bridge. It is what we can always, like they say, the Monday um, quarterback. They have
Yeah.
football now every day of the
Right.
week. But
Right.
you
Right.
know, you can always say that when it's all said and done. But I really hope that. And then, as you had mentioned, so you have Joanne's. That was huge, and then the shift that you hear that Michaels has purchased Joanne's IP, their intellectual property, which I think is actually a good thing. I really truly think it is, even
Yeah.
though we're not going to find all of the garment fabrics in the stores. Most of it is going to be online. I don't see Michaels. That's my 2 cents. I don't think that Michaels is going to clear out their framing department to make space for more fabric. I'm also hoping that Michaels will invest in at least a cutting table instead of you having to go to the framing section. They don't even cut it in front of you, which is weird. They take it behind,
Yes.
behind the door there, and you can only at this time purchase a 1 yard minimum. So I am hoping that things change. And if that wasn't enough,
Hmm.
I wake up to news that the big four pattern companies have been sold, and we say big four, but it's really a handful or more of companies. They call it the big four. Um, that have been sold to a liquidator. Hilco is the liquidator's name, and it's still left to be seen. Some people said, oh, we don't know what's going to happen when a liquidator comes into play. That's not a good sign. It doesn't mean it's going to be sold. It usually means it's going to be there's a liquidation, so it's going to be torn apart,
Yeah.
and who knows what is going to happen. And they have the printer for tissue patterns,
Yeah.
so it's even deeper than just the big five
Mhm.
commercial. I mean, the big four commercial patterns. This hits and hits hard.
Yeah. It definitely does. And it this whole like sale with the whole Hilco thing and the big four patterns reminds me, it's just of that movie Pretty Woman, and where Richard Gere was that company that bought these struggling companies. And the main one in that movie line was like a family owned business. And they just chop it down into parts and just sparse it out, and they don't care. It's just business. That's what it reminds me of. And then with this whole thing with the patterns, and I'm just like, oh no, what is going on? And so I do hope that someone, well, here's the other thing too. Joanne also owned Creative Bug.
Hmm.
And so that was just acquired by Golden Peak Media, which I think is good news. So I think they're going to be fine. And Golden Peak is in our industry, and they know the, business. So they're not just going to, like, get rid of it. So I was happy. At least there was a little silver lining right there. But I really do hope that, this Simplicity group makes it, because, Mimi G uh changed Simplicity, like, just brought it to the where what is what century are we in? 21st century. Yeah. So and I think, the other brands could use the same thing. So hopefully they will listen to consumers, and hopefully somebody out there will acquire it and do good by it and not do away with, those last tissue printers. Um, I mean, I know that a lot of people, especially maybe the younger generations, are so used to digital files. But you still have to, like, cut out these pattern pieces, and whether you're taping them together or, now the projectors are coming into play, but they're still super expensive. And not everyone has the space, like, to
Yeah.
project, you need a big cutting table so that piece, you know what I mean, like, can project and you can get around and cut it and all that stuff. So I really feel like paper patterns has a place, and they need to, like, stick around, um, because
And
yeah.
yeah, speaking of projector sewing, it is something that I want to get into as well. I just haven't
Mhm.
made the shift. But Ditto, which, Joanne was promoting and
All
selling, I
right.
did
Yes.
hear that they were purchased by Singer. And of course, Singer is my brand, so I'm happy to
Mm,
hear that. But
mhm.
for people who want to get into projector sewing, you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to get a projector. One of my friends, Ironica Cole, that's a designer as well. She's actually a Nomi pattern designer. She actually has a projector class, and you can purchase the projector from like eBay and different places. Use projectors for like $100 or so, hundred,
No
$200.
way.
Way, yeah, way, yes, way. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. And so when I do get into it, I will be working with Ironica to figure out what's the right, and she does classes. So for people that want to get into it, you don't have to spend a lot of money. There are ways to do it.
Okay, that's good to know, because I just thought they started at like $500 and went up.
Mm-mm, nope.
Okay, great. That is good. Good to hear. Thank you. All right. So all right, we'll get off that topic.
But I do want to say this. I do want to say this. You mentioned Mimi G, and I must say I adore her. I love
Right?
her. I've actually met Mimi G in person. I interviewed her. She was one of the folks that I interviewed on the SewOver50 account on
Oh, I
Instagram.
have to find that.
She is very personable, down to earth. And I think that I agree with you that she did some really amazing things over at Simplicity, and then bringing and creating the Nomi brand. And I know a number of the Nomi pattern designers, and I just love that these are just regular folks
Mm,
who create really dope patterns. So it'll be interesting to see how things all kind of play out. But
yeah.
major respect for her, major respect.
For sure, yeah, and I mean, she did put out a video right away when that was happened, and at least Simplicity is gonna be around, and her patterns and stuff. I mean, they're working on a fall release and stuff like that, so, nothing drastic is gonna happen, at least in the near future. which is good to hear. So, and I'm sure like, you know, they're working on something. So let's just hope.
I agree.
So, okay, I looked through your projects and your sewing is just blows my mind. I love it. And I think I feel like, you know, some of my style is sort of like your style speaks to me like the same way. Like I would make that indigo patchwork skirt. I love it.
Ooh.
So beautiful. Love that. And one thing that I have not ventured into are coats. I've made some like jacket, like we in Chicago do use fleece. So
I can imagine.
I have made my husband a couple of zip up fleece, you know, like just jackets that you just wear around the house or whatever. But so yeah, the coats that you make are just amazing. And I picked out three that I just absolutely love. You made this black fur coat with this red multi-print lining, which is stunning. I love that one. So I'm going to list these three and then you just have to tell us all about them. Okay, that one's number one. The second one is this Burberry inspired jacket. So cute. And I love the Burberry plaid. Love it to death. And then a third one is a bomber jacket, which you made out of this really cool pattern, like print fabric. So those
Was
are
that the
my,
red and white one?
yes. Yeah. That one. That's the one. So, those are my favorites. So go ahead and talk about those.
Those are actually three of my, favorite projects as well. They're like in my top, I'm going to say my top 10.
Yay.
So the fur coat was and is one that I wear all the time. Obviously not in the summer here, but it's just such a cool coat, and I get so many compliments. So thank you so much, by the way.
Mm.
Thank you. That is a Mimi G pattern. Um, and I didn't know how the fur would sew up. That was the first time I'd worked with that type of fur. The fur actually is a Minerva. So Minerva is a fabric company in the UK. I'm one of their ambassadors, and so it was one of the projects that I worked on with them. And the internal the lining fabric also came from Minerva. I knew right away that I wanted something that just really popped. That when I opened that up, it was like that's just
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to do that because I don't often do solid colors. And I really enjoyed working on that. I'm trying to remember, did that one have welt pockets? I no, that one actually had, which was super easy. It was patch pockets,
Mm.
so really super easy to sew. And I think it also had side seam pockets, so not a really difficult sew. Even working with the lapel, I have done some coats where you're pulling together the lapel and it's like, ooh, this comes together kind of in the way of a dart. And you're like thinking to yourself, this makes no sense. And you just have to say to yourself, trust the process. It will
Mhm.
make sense. So it really wasn't a difficult sew. Of course, I had to do a lot of vacuuming as you're
Yes,
cutting
because it
through.
sheds.
It's a lot, yes, shedding. But then once it's done, it's done. The Burberry jacket, I actually sewed that one live on my YouTube channel.
See? Live. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you
Yep.
did that.
So it is live. And I think I did two different, I broke it down into two different segments because there was no way I was going to get it all done because there was the collar, there was double cuffs on it. You have the placket, you have the buttons, you have all of those different kinds of things. And I took the time to do pattern matching because of the Burberry
Yes.
stripes.
Yep.
And I wanted the pockets to just disappear. I did that also with the pockets at my waist. So I angled them so that they're like this because when you put your hands in your pocket, your hands go in your pockets like this.
Mhm.
But I made the pockets completely blend into the fabric, and I love that so much. My son actually tried the jacket on. He's like, "Mom, he would have taken that jacket. It's one of my favorites." And I got that fabric from Nick of Time. They are a US based fabric company, and I've gotten a couple things from them. Quality is great, shipping is great, so definitely recommend them. Um, the bomber jacket is special. The fabric is from Fabric Mart, and Fabric Mart is based in Pennsylvania. They have a physical footprint, but then they also have a online footprint. And the pattern for that is a pattern created by Lynn Wardrobe, sewn adaptive, and that one is special to me because the pattern can be adapted for people who have disabilities. So if you imagine if you were in, and you can choose to make the standard or the adapted version. If you make the adapted version, you make it maybe shorter because if you imagine that if you're in a wheelchair, it's just going to bunch up, right? You don't need all that extra fabric. And so I really love it. And I love working with her because I am a huge proponent of what she is doing by modifying patterns so that people with who need accessible patterns that they can look as amazing as everyone else. You know, they want to look fly, they want to look great, and I love how she adapts patterns so that to make that available. You know,
Yeah, that's very
make
good.
patterns accessible. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I love those. Um, so, uh, and then there's this other dress that you made that is awesome. Um, it's I think the pattern I wrote down the pattern number is S9114 dress made with this subtle animal print, and then you had this like three-strand pearl necklace. This might have been the one where I saw where you made, is this the dress where you also made the tie for your husband, or is that a different?
Oh yes. That's one of my TNT projects. And it's Simplicity 9114. I love that. I've actually made that pattern. I'm gonna say a total of 4 times now. So I made that particular one, which is the animal print. And I love
Love
it
that
because I can wear
fabric.
it as a dress, but I can also open it up and I've worn it as with jeans and just a little tank top underneath. So more like a little shacket.
Nice.
One year I wore it for Halloween and put on cat ears because of the whole cat vibe of the dress, and it
Yeah.
worked out nicely. But that's one of my favorite dresses, and that's long sleeve. I made another one long sleeve. I did a short sleeve version, and then more recently, the same pattern as 9114, I did a sleeveless version. And each of them I hacked because I don't think the pattern came with pockets. So I think I hacked it to add pockets. I made one of them super short, another one kind of a midi length, and then the maxi length. But I love that pattern.
Oh, that dress is so beautiful. It's beautiful on you. Um,
Thank
I see.
you.
See now, all of these things I picked out seem to be your. See how we sort of vibe with the same sort of likes.
Mm,
I like the same things
I
you like.
love that.
Oh, I love it. That is so cool. Oh wait, I did have a follow-up though on that Burberry one that you said you did as a live. Was that like the first time that you made that pattern? Like you didn't like
So
sew it
it was the
beforehand?
second time because
Okay.
the first time I made the pattern because it's a shirt pattern.
Ah,
And it's a Nomi pattern, Nikki Brooks Nomi pattern. I won't be able to tell you the name off the top of the number off the top of my
no,
head,
that's
but
fine.
Nikki Brooks is the designer. And I'd made it with this really gorgeous, very vibrant, like it had blue and pinks and greens in it as a shirt. And I love the pattern. And so I knew I wanted to make a shacket. And so I adapted it, add a little bit more space in the patterns. So it would actually serve as a shacket, a jacket type. And then I just hacked and made it really exactly what I wanted to do. And I've made it a third time. So I've made that pattern 3 times, but it was the second time I made it
Okay.
when I was sewing it live on
All right.
YouTube.
Good. That makes more sense to me. Otherwise, you must be like this superhuman. Well, like I took piano lessons for like 12 years, and I don't do very well playing by ear, but I can sight read well. And so then I got lazy and went to practice for my lessons. And then after a while, my teacher was like, "You can sight read well. You not practicing this. You need to."
Because it shows, it probably
Yeah,
shows because you have a little bit
he
more
can notice.
energy. Yes,
Right, right,
yes,
right. So
yes.
I was busted, but I mean, that's kind of like probably like your superhuman, powers that you can sew and be live at the same time. Oh, I love it.
But in the
Okay.
background, my head is like, "Oh my gosh!" So it
Well,
just
it's good to
I'm
hear
glad.
because we're
Yeah,
all like that. Yeah, I know. I can. Uh, I've been in those situations where in my head I'm just like, "Be cool, be cool, be cool."
be cool. You got this. You can do this. You can
Yeah.
do this.
So your YouTube channel, just talk a little bit about that. We have, we know that you do lives and sew alongs, and I think you also do have some tutorials, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I started my YouTube channel about a year and a half ago. And really, I just wanted to show people that one, you can get into sewing no matter how old you are. I got into this after retirement. It's doable. You can do this, and you can do it in a way that it doesn't need to break the bank. So I've been doing it for about a year and a half. Started right away with sew alongs and tutorials. I started with pretty basic kinds of things because I wanted to be able to make things that anyone, a beginner, would want to pick up and be able to run with. And then some things where you don't need a pattern. So I wanted to make it really simple. But then I also added some of the more complicated things like the Burberry jacket, the dress that I haven't completely finished because I haven't gone back to unpick it and modify it. So I've done a multitude of many different types of sew along, some live and then some where I just kind of tape my entire process. And I just love to show folks that you can do this, make it simple, make it straightforward. Um, and I don't spend a lot of time editing my videos. I just don't. I want to spend the time sewing, and
Yeah,
editing can take a lot of time. So people who are subscribers and who follow me and that sort of thing, they understand that you just what you see is kind of what you're going to get. It's not going to be totally polished. Maybe I have makeup on some days I don't. Some days, my hair might just be pulled up. It just really depends. But I just wanted it to be real and let folks know that anyone can do this and get into this.
that's great, and I love it, and because that's kind of what for those of us who are not as bold and fearless as you are, we can learn from you, and we can know that we don't have to have everything perfect to the nth degree because that's going to make our sewing experience horrible. And the point is to love what you're doing and have something to show for it. And also, like you said, it doesn't have to break the bank and it doesn't have to take forever. Like you can make
Hmm.
beautiful things in an hour or two. And yeah, I love it. So, continued success on your YouTube channel. And I'll have all the links, of course, in the show notes. But there was something I wanted to ask you too, because one of the things you say in your description is that style is not defined by age. So, like in every category, there's always like the naysayers and stuff like that, and just like, she shouldn't be wearing that, or you know what I mean, like, or if like maybe like someone over 50 is wearing like a wild print or whatever and a body conscious say, like Mimi G does really well those
Hmm.
bodycon
Hmm.
dresses. So she's got it and she can flaunt it, right? So is
Yeah.
that kind of what you're talking about, or just talk about
Yep.
that?
So Thank you for raising that because I think it is very, very important. I feel that as a maker, you should be visible regardless of your age, not just because you're in your 20s or your 30s and you have good knees or whatever the case might be. I feel that, makers over the age of 50 should continue to be visible as well. And not just visible in social media, but also on pattern covers. I want to be able to look at a pattern cover and see a fly person who might be 60 or even 70 years old rocking whatever the outfit might be, not something that is bland and it. And there's nothing wrong with monochrome colors or anything like that. But a lot of times I would look at pattern covers, like for instance, let me give you an example. Butterick, the demographic for Butterick is really a more mature audience. I don't sew Butterick patterns as a general rule, not because that's their demographic. It's because their pattern covers, the models that they have on it, the makes do not speak to me. The colors, the silhouettes, it doesn't speak to me. So I end up sewing mostly, if I'm doing commercial patterns, McCall, Simplicity, and No Me patterns because they speak more to me. My age shouldn't determine the type of garment that I choose to sew or the type of garment that I choose to wear. I also feel that we have to show up authentically, and I want to encourage people to be comfortable in the body that they have. So, yes, when you get a little bit older, you may be a little bit heavier in the midsection, but let's face it, you might be 20 years old and heavier in your midsection. And I just want to be comfortable wearing whatever speaks to me and encourage other people to do the exact same things, being age inclusive, but also size inclusive, gender inclusive, race inclusive as well. So I want to see my demographic on pattern covers and, if fabric stores have promotions where they're showing how a particular garment may look or fabric looks on a body type. I want to be able to look at that and see myself. Um, so that's part of why I love being a part of the SewOver50 team, because we actually will reach out to, in addition to interviewing like Mimi G, but also reaching out to independent pattern companies and really trying to encourage them to put more mature models on their pattern covers. I don't
Yeah.
expect that they would all be mature models, but I want to see a good variety, right? I want to
Right.
see that
Yeah.
it's diverse.
Yes. Yeah. I like that, and I think it's very important, especially now that I'm kind of it's always been like in the past, like I've always been sort of like part of, younger than the other, sewist in the room or whatever. Now I'm on the other side, over 50, and I want to see that. And you're right.
Are
You
you
just
really? I didn't know you were
clothes.
over 50.
I
You look
am.
amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just turned, well, in March, 54.
Congratulations and happy
Wow.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, so I'm on that other side. And also too, growing up, uh my just a personal note about me is because I'm half Korean. And
Wow.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and thank you. But growing up for me in the 70s and 80s was hard because I had my mother remarried. I was the only kid from the first marriage, and then all my uh, half siblings were blonde and blue eyed. And then I had these
Mm,
adults asking me, "Why do you not look like your brothers and sisters?" And then like I was just around. I was around that demographic. So I always felt like the oddball outside, and just like nowadays, thank goodness, like girls can see dolls in their hair color and their skin color, and sewing patterns the same way. I mean, we've come such a long way from when like I was growing up and made to feel like less than, and like I felt
mm,
like, oh, I need to have like straight hair. My hair was super curly, And that was like another thing. Everybody around me had straight hair, and I felt like I need to straighten my hair. Oh, so yeah, I'm all for this. I'm all for just to be comfortable who you are and also represent, for sure, because it's nice to see people who have your features and your age and your color of hair or whatever. I mean, it's nice to see that variety. And yeah, so we'll just
Thank
keep
you for that. And thank
on
you for
making it
sharing your,
happen.
yeah,
Oh,
thank you
thanks.
so much.
So, yeah, that's why I'm glad that you said, like, I can't remember if we were talked about this on on recording or not, but that, that So Over 50,
Hmm.
uh, has more people to keep it going so that, the two people who first started it didn't get totally burnt out. So I'm glad that it's alive and well and growing because we all need it. I need it. I know that for sure. And I love
Absolutely.
it. All right. So before we go, just a little personal thing because you and I also advocate for adopt, don't shop. You
Yes,
actually rescue puppies. So you are a foster puppy parent too, right?
I am. I am very, very big about that. So I work with a local rescue group, and as time permits, we will actually foster, usually two or three puppies at a time. We have our own dogs here in the house that are all rescues as well. Two dogs here in the house that are rescues. Well, my daughter's here and she has a dog, and then we have our dog, but we used to have two and we lost one of ours this year. Yeah, and then we have a cat, he too. Jack is also a rescue. And then I had the opportunity, because I teach yoga classes, and at the gym where I teach yoga classes, I was asked, "Would you host a yoga session, a puppy yoga?" And I was like, "Yes, that would be amazing." It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and so a different rescue brought in. It was about 13 or 15 different puppies, and we attempted to practice, but mostly there was a lot of giggling and cuddling and that sort of thing. And more recently, I've been asked to teach a kitty yoga class. Now that one's coming up later in the month, so I'm excited for that one as well. But whenever I can support rescues, because I do believe that there are so many animals out there that are in need of loving homes. Whenever I can support rescues and fosters, I'm 100% going to do that. And when it collides with my fitness world, it's even better. So such a
Yeah.
fun time.
Oh, I saw pictures of your puppy class and I just melted. I melted. I just love it so much. And I have Cooper is our rescue pup. He's 10 years old now and he comes from there's a shelter local here in Chicago, Paws. And so I love them.
Hmm.
We love them so much. And then we have a second dog that sort of a rescue from my sister. And he's wonderful too, Badger. But yeah, we definitely would always adopt and rescue puppies for sure. And they're, you know, we don't have kids, so they are our kids and they're our family. And
Hmm.
I'm sure people think we're like nutty and crazy, but I don't care because this is there was a comedian I saw on Instagram and he was just like, you know, hello, this is like the whatever century. This is not like 50 years ago where your dogs used to be wolves and they stayed outside.
Our fur
They're not
babies are
dogs
our
anymore. They're
family.
because they're doodles. They're people.
They're people. Exactly.
Yeah.
They're our family members.
Our family. They sure are, and they have the personalities and everything. So, yeah, I always like to, if someone's that I talk to is into the rescue and the foster and all that stuff, I want to shed a light on it because it's something that's near and dear to my heart too. All right, so let's close it out here and talk about. I think you have some things coming up too. Isn't there like a frocktail thing, or is that already done?
Yeah, so I'm part of Baltimore's Frocktails committee. And so Frocktails is, I don't have the exact date. I really should. My team will be watching this and say, Byrd, how did you not remember the date? So I'm actually going to look it up on my phone. So Frocktails is on July 19th. So if you happen to be in the Baltimore, D.C. area, and you want to come, we still have tickets available. I'm also part of Baltimore Swap, so Be More Swap, and it's a fabric swap. And so twice a year, we host events. The last one was at the Maryland Institute College of Art. Um, they give us the space, they work with us, their textile group, and people come in with fabric, patterns, notion. You don't have to come in with anything. You can just show up with a big old bag and leave with lots of goodies. You just walk through, and if a fabric speaks to you, or a pattern, or we even have yarn, lots and lots of yarn, they go home with you. They're
Oh,
rehomed, and then whatever was left over, the school then took to use in their textile projects, which was really nice.
very nice.
Um, I'm also part of Sew Ankara, which is a week in July where there's a spotlight on sewing Ankara fabric.
Ooh.
And that's the one that I'm thinking about doing the jumpsuit again using Ankara fabric.
Ah, nice.
So that's also mid-July. So I have a lot of projects I need to do. And then the other one that I'm working on in July is with Rochelle Handmade, also on Instagram and YouTube, is something called KISS. So it's an acronym. So all capital letters, just KISS, and it's Keep It Simplicity Sis. And basically what we're charged with doing is making, now, of course, she came up with that before we heard that the big four were going to be sold and that sort of thing, but we're still moving forward with it because we don't know what's happening. So each of the participants are asked to create a simplicity pattern and take photos. So I haven't picked my pattern yet. So I have a couple of fun things, but
Nice.
pretty much every month there's some new and fun things.
Yeah, and if we follow you on Instagram, is Yoga Bird
Yoga Bird sews.
Sews, Yoga Bird Sews, and the links will be in the description for sure for all of this. Then we'll be able to see your photos of of all of this stuff, like the kiss and
Yes, the
anything that
So
you're
Ankara.
gonna be, yeah, the
Hmm.
so Ankara and any of the so longs you start doing and all of that. So and also follow you on your YouTube channel. I am subscribed and I've been catching up and watching some things. Like I said, I
Thank
watched your
you.
shirt and I'm gonna show off my make. This is my um a tank top I made a few years back. Um and it's out of like a cotton linen blend.
Nice.
Yeah, and
Such a
like
pretty, I love the
kind of like
colors.
that Japanese what do you call it? Now, see, now I can't remember. It's my COVID brain.
It's really pretty. I love it.
Thank you. See, and it's fun to wear stuff that you've made. I have not made as nearly as much as you have, or as people in the So Over 50 group. Um, I uh, I have plans and I have fabric lined up. So I'm hoping to have some time this summer to be able to
Can't
make
wait
some
to
stuff
see
for
it.
me. Yeah, so I'll post it and I'll tag So Over 50 and everything.
Please do. Please
But I
do.
really appreciate you coming on and talking about all of this and getting us excited about sewing again and not feeling intimidated by it. I mean, just by me talking with you, and I do sew, but I'm not like I said, I've never made a coat or anything like that. I haven't been as adventurous as you have, but it really has inspired me to like drop the fear and drop the perfectionism and just go for it. So, and I'll keep
I
watching you so to remind
love
me,
hearing that.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I'll
Thank
hold you
you.
accountable.
Yes, thank you so much. All right.